Oregon Senator Ron Wyden outlined tax policies to hold Russia accountable for the invasion of Ukraine. Senator Wyden is chair of the Senate Finance Committee, the leading Democrat on the Joint Committee on Taxation, and a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Wyden, thanks for joining me on Iowa Northwest Politics. I want to ask you, in light of President Vladimir Zelensky appearing before Congress, your plan calls for eliminating tax benefits for many Russians and people from Belarus operating in the U.S. Explain that plan to us.
Well, the long and short of it is, I don't think Oregonians and Americans should be subsidizing the Russian war machine. You have, for example, an American company operating in Russia. They pay taxes to the Russian government, and then they get foreign tax credits. And in effect, we're subsidizing their war machine. And so I've been going after the oligarchs. We're following the money. And with respect to taxes, I don't think hardworking Oregonians and our counterparts in other states ought to be subsidizing, underwriting the Russian war machine.
Do you need an act of Congress to pursue this further?
You certainly need an act of Congress, in my view, if you're talking about unraveling these kinds of tax subsidies. For example, foreign tax credits are designed to, for example, help American companies doing business overseas, not in matters like helping Russia in the middle of a war, and then they would get some measure of foreign tax credits. What I want to do is I want to tighten the economic noose around Putin, and this is the way to do it.
I want to talk about American companies that continue to operate in Russia. We've seen quite a few pull out, but apparently there's quite a few still doing business in Russia. Do you want to do something about that?
Certainly, and I would hope that they would step up now. As we all say, we've got to find ways in which to be supportive of Ukraine. We're all patriots. We understand what's at stake. And I would just hope that those American companies doing business in Russia would come home. And as we know, many have, but many have not. And I want to make sure that if they are staying in Russia, are paying taxes to the Russian government, we're not going to use American tax dollars to subsidize those activities.
And that would take an act of Congress, am I wrong?
That's correct. Certainly, if you're going to make changes in federal tax law and matters involving foreign tax credits, that will require a change in the law.
Where does that all stand?
I've been talking to my Republican colleagues just today, a number of them, and I can tell they think it just doesn't pass the smell test for an American company to do business in Russia, pay taxes to the Russian government, and then somehow get it all underwritten by the American taxpayer with these foreign tax credits. So I'm feeling encouraged today. You know, we have, of course, we're at the video where we heard Mr. Zelensky. I thought it was a very powerful presentation. You saw, for example, the videos, the pictures of these children and senior citizens, and you listen to what he's faced with. And I said, when I was asked, it just seemed like murder.
I want to talk more about President Vladimir Zelensky's presentation to Congress on Wednesday. President Biden has resisted direct U.S. military assistance to the Ukrainians. As Putin gets more aggressive, do you see a scenario where that could change?
I believe that we ought to be upping the economic sanctions, which is what I'm doing. We ought to be trying to assist in every way possible with materiel. But I think with respect to no-fly zones, it's important to really understand what's at stake. And my sense is you have all those planes flying around, over there. It's going to be pretty hard to have that genie get stuck into the bottle. And you really could be looking at an escalating war, a very significant escalation.
Is there a red line for you that Putin cannot cross? And if so, what is that red line and what's the response?
Well, I sit on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. I'm not going to get into any matters that are classified. I have always been cautious about drawing these, proverbial lines, because it is certainly always the unexpected that creeps up on you, and you have to have common sense policies that protect our country when that happens. I do feel very strongly that on matters like a no-fly zone, extreme caution is warranted, and I've said that.
You're talking about not doing a no-fly zone. Let's say that Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, becomes besieged, encircled. Could you envision an airlift like was done with Berlin to drop humanitarian supplies into Kyiv?
Yeah, I always want to be reluctant of kind of getting in what if over here and what if over there. I've always felt one of our most important roles in terms of power, there's hard power and soft power. Airlifts provide great humanitarian assistance, and at this point, I'm not going to rule anything out on the humanitarian side.
As I mentioned, you sit on the Senate Intelligence Committee. You hear a lot of things that you cannot repeat. I wish we could get inside your brain. What kind of information is Congress getting on what the situation is on the ground?
I'm convinced we're getting a fairly good picture of what's involved. I want to make sure that we look at a number of issues that haven't been explored at all. For example, we really ought to be doing everything we can to promote strong encryption. People asked me today why I feel that strong encryption is so important. I said, if you don't let people's devices have strong encryption, people can die because you can get access to information that can bring about the death of an individual.
Every generation has its struggles. Every year, every month, we have a new struggle. Can you put this in perspective for us on where the situation with Ukraine and the stare down with Putin ranks in the crises that you have seen while in office?
I think it's right up at the top. And for me, this is kind of resonant of what my family knows a lot about. My parents fled the Nazis in the 30s. Not all got out. We lost family at Kristallnacht, at Theresienstadt. We know what it's like to be up against an autocrat, someone like Vladimir Putin. And I think that's why it's so important to do everything we can to deal with this issue in the Ukraine. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Different rules apply. And that's why I'm doing everything I can as chairman of the Finance Committee to end permanent normal trade relations. I think that the Russians, with their inhumane behavior, they have forfeited the right to normal trade benefits, and they are essentially breaching the international trading order since after World War II. That's why I'm talking about taking away these tax breaks that I mentioned for companies that pay taxes to the Russian government and now can figure out how to get foreign tax credits here from our government. That's why I've called for beefing up the effort to target the oligarchs. So I'm all in on this.
Senator Wyden, I could talk to you all day for hours about this. We really appreciate your time and your perspective.
We'll do it again. Thank you.